So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick information if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. So my name is Nodejs and I have been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. So as a part of today's session, we are going to focus on what exactly we mean by REST APIs and what are the features of REST API, the principles of REST API, the methods of REST API, and the hands-on as a part of our discussion here. So that is what we are going to discuss as a part of our session today. All right. So now if we talk about REST APIs here. So first of all, since the invention of World Wide Web, various web technologies like RPC or SOAP were used to create and implement web services. But these technologies use heavy definitions for handling any communication task. Thus, REST was developed, which helped in reducing the complexities and provide an architectural style in order to design the network-based application. Now, since Node.js technology is revolutionizing the server for front-end developers, in this entire video, we are going to demonstrate the process of building the REST API from Node.js from scratch itself. That's how it is going to be structured. So you can refer to this link here for nodejs.org/download, and based on the platform, we can choose the installer. So like we have Windows installer, Mac OS, and then we have source code. And once we have downloaded it, we can simply cross-check if Node has been properly installed or not. And for that, we can open up a command prompt. And here we can type in as Node version. If Node has been properly installed, and we would be able to see the version of Node returned to us. As you can see, currently we have version 12.182, which has been returned. All right, so that's how we can start with the Node.js installation here. Now, let's go right back to our Node.js discussion. So Node.js itself is what? Node.js is basically a web development framework. So if you talk about Node.js, again, it's a framework. It's basically based on JavaScript itself, and it is developed on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. So it compiles JavaScript directly into the native machine code, and it is used for creating these server-side web applications, and then ensuring that it is going to be the right pick for data-intensive real-time applications itself. So Node has been the base for multiple other frameworks as well. Like we have Angular, we have PHP, we have Angular, we have React. So again, they are also based on Node. So it acts like a base infrastructure, and on top of it, we can choose the other frameworks to develop the entire architecture accordingly. That's how it works. Now, if you talk about the features of Node.js, that it is an open source tool. That means again, it is license free. There is no licensing required here. It is simple and fast. It is asynchronous, and it offers high scalability as well. It is a single thread application where we don't have any kind of buffering defined. So now if we talk about the entire architecture for Node.js, so here, first of all, here we have the entire web application in terms of the Node.js architecture. Now here, what we have here, we have the entire single threaded event loop model, basically which means that all the client requests on Node.js are executed by a single thread. And this is also not just based on single threaded environment, but again, it is also based on the event driven environment as well. That means which eventually helps Node.js in handling multiple clients concurrently, as you can see here. So here now this is the traditional architecture that we had, and now in Node.js we have single thread event loop model available here. So this ensures that Node.js is going to handle multiple events, and that too simultaneously. So here we can receive multiple I requests from the client, and then we can have the entire Node.js environment defined. So here we can define the event loop where the entire IO request is going to be handled by the different synchronized threads, and then they are going to simply respond and send back to the clients as well, which is going to interfere with the database and all the available file system for the current architecture. Now, if we talk about REST API, first of all, let's discuss on what exactly we mean by REST APIs as well. REST, or we can say Restful API, is basically representational state transfer. REST stands for representational state transfer. It is an architectural style as well as an approach for communications purpose that is often used in various web services development. In simpler terms, it is an application program interface that makes use of the HTTP request to get, put, post, and delete the data over www as in World Wide Web. So REST architectural style helps in leveraging the lesser use of bandwidth, which makes an application more suitable for the internet. It is often regarded as the language of the internet, and it is completely based on the resources where each and every component is regarded as the component and a single resource is accessible through a common interface through a standard HTTP method as well. And to understand better, we can dive a little deeper and see how exactly does a REST API work. So basically, REST API breaks down a transaction in order to create a small modules. All right. So for example, we can go to our annotation mode here. All right. So here, to understand this better, we can say, suppose there's a transaction here. So REST APIs are using the REST API here. We can simply break the transaction into smaller components, and which is going to be called as different modules here. Like we have different modules here, M1, M2, M3. And then these different modules are going to address a specific part of the transaction itself. They're going to address what? They're going to address a specific transaction that we have. And this approach provides more flexibility, but requires a lot of effort to be built from the very scratch. So the main functions used in any REST-based architecture are, so we have get, so which provides a read-only access to a resource. So if we talk about the architecture here, then first of all, we have get. So here we have get, then we have put, then we have delete, and then we have post. So these are the main functions. These are the main functions in REST-based architecture. We can say REST-based architecture. So here get, put, delete, and post. So get is basically useful in providing a read-only access to a resource. Put simply creates a new resource itself. Then we have delete, which removes a resource, and then we have post, which simply updates an existing resource or create a new resource itself. So, but all who claims cannot be referred as a RESTful API. So in order to be regarded as a RESTful API, our application must satisfy certain constraints or principles. So let's discuss on what exactly these principles or these core components of REST API are. And in terms of before that, in terms of the features, then it's simpler than the SOAP platform. It supports both JSON and XML scripting. It offers a good documentation and it offers a good error message as well. Now, if you talk about principles as we discussed, so there are 6 ground principles laid down by Dr. Fielding, who was the one to define the REST API design in 2000. So the first one is stateless. So first of all, we have stateless, then we have client server, uniform interface, cacheable, layered system, and then we have code on demand. So if you talk about the first component here as stateless, so first of all, what we have here, the first one that we have is stateless. So here the request sent from a client to the server contains all the necessary information that is required to completely understand it. It can be a part of the URL, a query string parameter, body, or even header as well. So the URL is used for uniquely identifying the resource, and the body holds the state of the requesting resource. Now, once the processing is done by the server, an appropriate response is sent back to the client through headers, status, or response body. And then we have client server. So client server is what? Client server is basically a uniform interface that is used for separating the clients from the servers. So separating the concerns helps in improving the user interface portability across multiple platforms, as well as enhance the scalability of the server components. So in terms of uniform interface, so to obtain the uniformity throughout the application, REST has defined 4 interface constraints, which are resource identification, resource manipulation using representations, and then we have self-descriptive messages, hypermedia as the engine of the application state. And then we have cacheable. So in order to provide a better performance, the applications are often made cacheable itself. So it is done by labeling the response from the server as cacheable or non-cacheable, either implicitly or explicitly. And if the response is defined as cacheable, then the client cache can reuse the response data for equivalent responses in future. It also helps in preventing the reuse of the stale data. And then we have layered systems. So the layered system architecture allows an application to be more stable by limiting the component behavior. So this architecture enables load balancing and provides shared caches for promoting scalability. So the layered architecture also helps in enhancing the application security, as components in each layers cannot interact beyond the next immediate layer they are in. At the end, we have code on demand. So code on demand is an optional constraint, and it is used in the least, and it is used the least. So it permits a client's code or applets to be downloaded and extended via the interface, so it can be used within the application. Now, in its essence, it simply makes the entire process easier for the clients to by creating a smart application which doesn't rely on its own code structure. So now we know what exactly REST API is and what all we need in order to deliver the efficient application. Let's move further. Now, here we have methods of REST API that we had discussed earlier. Like we have post, delete, get, and then we have put. So these are the four different methods as we discussed. Get is used for providing a read-only access. Put is used for creating a new resource. Put is used for creating a new resource. Delete is used for removing a resource, and post is going to be used for updating an existing resource or creating a new resource altogether. All right. So now, as a part of our hands-on, let's get started. All right. So since we have already installed Node, so now we are going to create a simple project directory. So here we can use mkdir, and in here we can define the directory name, suppose as REST app. And let's switch to this REST app. So currently this REST app is going to be a blank folder, which we are going to use as a part of our project directory. So let's navigate to this folder so that we can see it is actually blank. And what kind of files are going to be defined. So you can see here we have blank folder by the name of REST app deployed in our local C folder under users, the username and the REST app. Now we are going to initialize Node in it, right? So here we can use npm. So npm is what? The Node package manager that we get once we have installed Node, and then we can use init. So basically this is going to initialize the npm in the current directory that we have created for working on the project. So here we can define the package name, the version, the description, the entry point, the test command, the Git repository if you want to specify that, the keywords, the author, and then the license, and then we can define the entire package or JSON, which simply defines all the prerequisites defined here, correct? So here we can define the entry point for along with several other information, and we are simply going to make use of the script.js as our entry point itself. We are not going to modify it. All right. And once we are done, we will be okay. I think we have pressed enter here. So as you can see, this entire Node.js package manager has been defined here. Now, as you can see, if we go back, we have package.json file already created. Now we are going to install Express inside this package manager. So for that, we can come back, and here we can use the same npm as a Node package manager. We are going to use I for installing, and then we can define Express. We can use I or we can use install both. So once we are now here, we can simply press enter, and this is going to install the Express.js in the current directory that we have specified here. So in case we have Express already downloaded and installed, this is going to be completed in a couple of seconds, or it may take a while. So as you can see, now we are done installing Express, and then we will be installing a monitoring package called as NodeMon. We have a node monitoring tool defined by the name of NodeMon. So here we can again make use of npm. We can define npm, and then we can define install. Now from the global package, we want to install NodeMon. So NodeMon is a monitoring tool. It helps us in keeping a watch on all the files with any type of extensions present in this folder. So also with NodeMon, we can watch. We don't have to restart Node.js server each time any changes are made, and NodeMon will implicitly detect the changes and restart the server for us so that we don't have to do that manually. So we can install NodeMon from the same npm package manager. So as you can see, this node package manager has also been installed. And then we have, now here we'll be having package.json file, we'll be having script.js defined that we are going to work with. So first of all, so if you go back, we can see here we have all the node modules, and then here we have package.json defined here. And then we are going to work on the script.js as a part of our hands-on. So here we can use this ID. We can simply open the folder. First of all, thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. So here we can open the same folder that we have created as a part of our project. As you can see here, this is the package.json file that we have configured when we are installing Node.js. And here we have the list of all the dependencies that we have. Now, if you want to configure the Node.js, this entire package.json file, we can define it. For example, here we can add a description to it. We can add the testing script here. And then we can define the author, the license, all the dependencies. And dependencies we have Express. Now, if you want to add one more dependency, so here we also need to have joy also defined here. So here we can define joy as a part of our dependency here. And then we can define the exact version for it. So here we can define any version from 13.1.0. So we can create a new file here that we can define by the name of script.js. And we already have the entire script defined here that I'm going to guide you. First of all, in this entire script, what we had done, here we define, now first of all, we have imported the Express platform, imported, and we have imported Joa. And then we have created the Express application on the app variable. And then we have used the JSON file by using app.use express.json. And then we are going to create a list of all the customers. So here we are going to give data to the server by using the constant defined as customers. And then here we have these different values of customers defined in terms of title as George, Josh, Tyler, Alice, Candace. And then we had defined, and then here we had to perform the read request filters as well. So basically here we are going to display the message when the URL consists of a simple /. So here we are going to send the response as welcome to Edureka REST API. And then we are going to display the list of customers when the URL consists of API customers. For example, here the URL contains API customers. So for the home page, this one should be the message. And for the customers, then we have to send the details of the customer that we have created before. And then for displaying the information of specific customer, when we mention the ID, for example, here we have customers and the ID has been mentioned, then we have to find the corresponding ID, and then we have to simply pass the integer for the corresponding ID itself. Suppose if it is 4, then the title here should be set as Alice, and so on. And if there's no valid ID available here, then we are going to display an error with the following message as the 404. And then we can define, oops, cannot find the customers. And then we have to create the request handler where we are going to create a new customer information. So basically here we can define API customers. And then we are going to, first of all, validate the customer copy from the body. And then if the status is code is 400, that means if it has been processed, then again, it is going to simply display the errors as 0. And then we have to validate the information entered by the user as well. So for that, we are going to create another function by the name of validate customer, where we are going to use the just means, okay, in the name, the title here should be a string value having minimum characters defined as 3, and it should be required. It is not optional. And then same way we can use Joa for validating the customer ID itself. as a part of schema define. And then we are going to simply port the environment variable on port 8080. So basically here we can define on which port we want this application to be deployed. So here we can keep it to port 8080 or any other specific port as part of the requirement. Once we are done, we also have a tool available for Chrome itself by the name of Postman. So here we have Postman Chrome extension. So here we can search for this extension called as Postman for Chrome. So basically this is a tool through which we can develop and test the native APIs. And this is available as a part of the Chrome extension. We can search for it and then we'll be able to download this at your end. So here we can click on launch app and this is going to, we can simply add this to the Chrome as an extension, or we can simply launch the application as well. So let's start off by testing our get method. So now in order to do that, we have to select get from the drop-down list type that we are going to get from this application. So here we have what? First of all, if we want to get started, here we can simply create a get request, right? So let's say here we want to find the specific title here. Suppose here we have defined multiple titles for the employees. So here we can just simply type in as request, and then we are going to define the title itself, and then this is going to get started. And to ensure that once we are done with the package, in case you want to start the npm packages, then here we have to make sure that script is bug free without having any issues. And in case there are some issues, first of all, we have to fix them, then only we can start working on the script itself. So whatever we want, whatever method we want to test out of here, we can simply create a new test method here, and then we can choose the parameter. For example, we want to go ahead with the test method here, or get, post, put. So whatever method we want to test out, we can define it, and then we can see the output being returned to us. So for example, here we have get. So here we can define the requested URL, and then we can simply click on send. And based on the logic that we defined here, we would be able to see the response being received as a part of the API that we have currently developed. Absolutely. So here, let's say here we define, now here we discuss, okay, we have a local host, right? So here we are seeing, okay, we have a local host, and then again, under local host on port 8080, we have launched the application. And then within this, we have defined as a part of the logic we define, okay, we have defined in script, if the path is suppose the home page, then we should be getting this response. If the path is suppose API customers. So suppose here we define as API and / customers. Then if we have this current application up and running, so this is going to be the customer list that is going to be returned to us as a response here from the API that we can generate as a part of get response. But again, for that, we have to ensure that we do have the app up and running on this. Then only we will be able to deploy it. And in case we have Joa missing here, because again, Joa is also a package that we have to install. So in case when we are trying to run the file here, then here we can define npm, and then we can define the file that we are going to run. So as you can see, Joa is currently missing from the entire repository here. So for installing it, we can ensure that we are going to use npm I and I for installation and then Joa. So again, if it is not available, then this is going to be downloaded from the global package manager from npm. And once we have this downloaded, we will be able to rerun the same statement as in node script.js, and then script.js is going to be executed. And as you can see here, currently it is running on port 8080. And now if we use the same response here in node package manager, then we will be able to simply see the application being opened up on port 8080 as well as with the current configuration defined. In case there are no other applications defined on the same port. So I think we already have Jenkins running on this port here. So what we can do, we can simply modify the port number because we don't want to create a contradiction, right? So here, let's do one thing. Let's say here we want to give a separate port here at 8064 or 7465. Here we can define the port. And once it is being deployed here, we will be able to see this one getting opened up in the browser. So as you can see here, currently we have opened this up on port 8086 and 8081. And same way, now if we go ahead and work on Postman, we will be able to modify the entire link. Suppose here we want to send response to 8086. And then if you click on send here, then again, if we had defined the response, then this is going to be returned to us as a part of the link altogether. So as you can see here, so if we have sent port 8086 API customers, we are going to see the same customers being returned as a part of the response here. All right. And whether we want to receive different responses, so whatever configuration we define here as a part of the script. So for example, here we define different URLs for the customer ID, for having the specific customer list defined, or if we want to return to the home page and what should be the content being displayed, we can define everything here as a part of the hands-on. So again, thank you so much for joining and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.